What's up, everyone? Thomas here. I've got Derrick on the line, and we've been pretty excited about talking about this on the record. So I'm looking forward to having this conversation, particularly about Ballerina, because there's so much to talk about with that movie.
Yeah, that's going to be our main topic for this show. But there's obviously this is just such a strangely packed weekend for movies. You would think that this would get further into the summer blockbuster season, right? We'd get closer into July, August, like where you really start having weekends that got like 4 or 5 movies that everybody wants to see. So that's kind of where you would think all of this would be. But this weekend is just go to the movies, guys. There's something to see right now for everyone. But I'm very excited to talk about Ballerina. I got a chance to see this at kind of like an early screening with like a super rowdy crowd, and that is by far and away the best way to watch this movie. I know Thomas called me immediately after he had saw it, and we just waxed poetic about how much we love Ana de Armas, just killing dudes. And yeah, so we are very, very excited to talk about this movie.
I just realized I have LED lights in my studio, and they weren't the right color scheme, so I was just turning around, making sure I got the purple color scheme going on. This is very
good.
important.
It's good.
Must be
the Ballerina background. You're ready.
Yes. Very cool. Well, I want to start with talking about a couple trailers that dropped this week. And it's interesting because both of these movies we knew were going to kind of be battling it out this year. And as it turns out, that was so true because they both dropped trailers on the same week. And so the War of the Musicals is on. So let's start with talking about the Kiss of the Spider-Woman teaser that came out this week. Now, you had a chance to see this at Sundance, right?
Yeah.
What I always think about when I watch a trailer is how well does the trailer represent the movie. So we don't have to review the movie, but I would love to get your perspective on, like, does the trailer do this movie justice?
That is such a complicated question to answer. Because I want to say there's a little bit of like yes and no. So yes, in a sense of it giving you that kind of old Hollywood vibe. It gives you the kind of glitz and glamour. It absolutely gives you some of that cheese factor that Kiss of the Spider-Woman has, and what Billy Condon is trying to go for with this. So that vibe is definitely there. I will tell you, like the old school style Chicago musical vibe that you would get. I mean, there's not to get too into it, but there is a whole jailhouse scene that feels just ripped from Chicago in the way it's framed, the way it's filmed, the way it's lit. Like everything about this scene is just like, oh, somebody watched Roxy Hart and was like, I got this. So in that regard, 100% yes, but no, because this is very J-Lo forward, and that's not to say she's not featured prominently in the film. But she's not really featured prominently in the film. She is very much like third build. Not actual casting, right? But in terms of the context of the movie overall, she is probably third in screen time. I mean, this movie belongs to Tonatia. I don't know if that's how you say his name. But Tauntaun, I don't know, whatever nickname you want to give him, just let him have it. But this movie really belongs to him, and the majority of the film is really those two. It's really him and Diego Luna, and it really is their story told through this retelling of the movie of Kiss of the Spider-Woman. And so, I mean, obviously, if you've seen the Raul Julia William Hurt one, it's much more of a drama, and I think you'd understand that the woman that he's talking about is not the star of the film. And I feel like the trailer portrays it as if this is a J-Lo vehicle. And I need everyone to be very cautious because it's not. She's good. She's not going to win. And I know people are already trying to campaign and jump on that Oscar nom, even for supporting, if they want to try to squeeze her in there somewhere. I'm telling you right now, the upcoming slate for what's going to come off of Cannes into TIFF, into Venice, into NIF, she doesn't stand a chance, guys. Like every year, Best Actress and Supporting Actress are absolutely cutthroat bloodbaths. And I can tell you this year, she's not going to crack the top 25, like not even close. So
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's so true. That's so true. I saw it at Sundance as well, and I agree with so much of what you're saying here because the J-Lo presence in that trailer is definitely what's selling this movie. And like you said, it's not that she's minimal, she's just clearly a supporting character. Her story is a supporting story. And so if you're going to see J-Lo and you want this to be a nonstop like J-Lo performance fest, the numbers are there. It's true. There are some really show-stopping numbers that she does. But they're interspliced into a much bigger story that isn't all about her. It's about these two characters telling the story of her. So that is a really good warning to put out there. I think
anybody
that
thinks this is going to be J-Lo, This Is Me Too, you're not the case.
Not quite.
Not quite the case.
We still have some time. If I'm not mistaken, when does this movie drop? October?
October 10th.
Yeah, so we still have some time. I'm sure they'll put more trailers out, but the movie marketing is always such a finicky thing because the marketers behind these trailers have to get butts in seats, and that means they have to play their best cards. In this case, I mean, what got me to the theater at Sundance was, J-Lo. And I can say that I was pretty happy with how much of her was in this movie, but really, you just have to set expectations properly. If you're not ready for it, you might walk out thinking, I thought this was a J-Lo movie. Like,
you're gonna be severely disappointed if that's what you go into. and that's not even an indictment, because I got a lot of shit for some of my original tweets and my original critiques of the film, and people just went, the J-Lo stands went hard when I was like, she's fine. And they were like, fine. What? She's the greatest thing to ever grace performance art. And I'm like, okay, guys. I did not say she was bad. I just said she was fine.
Really quick side note: you got to be careful about the fangirls and the fan bases, because like at Tribeca, I saw a clip of Tribeca where people went to see Miley Cyrus thinking that it was a performance and it was just a Q&A, and they straight up interrupted the Q&A like, we thought you were going to perform, sing The Climb. Like the stands are intense.
Yeah, no, they're out for blood if you don't fumble over
right.
over their greatest star.
Yeah, and I only mention that because we have a team covering Tribeca, and I happened to catch that clip, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that is wild. Anyway, but yeah, so that's what the J-Lo fans are pretty much doing here, and I echo your sentiment where she's really good. There's a pull quote in the trailer that says this was the role that J-Lo was born to play, which I don't disagree with. She is so perfect for this role. Yeah. But in that, I think there's probably going to be a lot of other people who take on roles that maybe we don't expect them to play, or that who really step outside of their comfort zone. This is very much in J-Lo's wheelhouse, and I think, unfortunately, with the caliber of film coming, particularly the one that we're about to talk about that had another trailer, it's going to be a real steep uphill battle for her.
Yeah, so. I agree. And that's just, not to put too fine a point on it, but that is the other thing that I got a lot of flack for, but I'm going to stand by it. Like, I stand by what I put on the internet most of the time. But you're absolutely right. Like, as good as J-Lo is, and she is very good in this movie. Most of the Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress awards go to people who really push the limits of not just their own talent, but their own framework of what they can do, right? It's people who deliver transformative performances that really give you something to grab onto and be like, wow, I had no idea they had this in them. And while J-Lo is very good in Kiss of the Spider-Woman, she's doing all the things that she's very good at, right? So there's nothing in this movie where you just go, wow, I didn't know J-Lo could do that. That quote is perfect, because you're like, yeah, this is the role she was born to play, because it's everything she's good at. Like, it's all her best strengths rolled into one particular role. And there's just no, and I please don't misunderstand me. She is up to the challenge, but the role itself doesn't challenge things for her. And just know that, and you'll be fine.
Wait, did you put that in your review, or can I take that? Because I have not published. She is up for the challenge. It's just not a challenge for her. I am totally stealing that. Put that in
I gotta stop doing that. I gotta stop doing that because you're the one that controls all the clips when you put these things out. So you just get to grab the soundbite before I get to write it.
Yep. That's what happens. That's funny. Good conversation there. But that directly leads us into the other massive trailer that dropped this week, which was the Wicked for Good trailer. And I'm going to start here because I know you have a lot more substantial things to say about this. So my own history with Wicked, I have not seen the play, unfortunately. I did really like the movie. I think there's some narrative choices I probably may not have done, but like overall, like we've watched it a few times now, and I've had the soundtrack on repeat. I think they did the soundtrack really, really well for the first movie. So I'm excited for the second movie. I just cannot for the life of me piece together how this story is supposed to go. I just can't. And let me tell you, this trailer doesn't help because even under the narratives that I understand with part one, like I already don't feel like Elphaba and Glinda are good friends. Glinda is always so selfish that I just like, that's not really a friendship to me. So like, how is this like, is it still a friendship? Is it a rivalry? How do we get to Wizard of Oz? What about the sister dying? Like, how is Elphaba, who I consider a good character here, going to be retextualized from a bad character into a good character? Like, I just cannot piece the dots together. And this trailer doesn't help. It's a great trailer. I think it's really well done. They put they check all the boxes for all the things that the fans would need to be happy with this trailer, and that's good, right? Obviously appealing to the fan base, appealing to the people who are looking forward to hearing the what the musical numbers and arrangements sound like. That's great, but I just needed to be here so I could really actually understand this story, because it does not make sense. Make it make sense. Anyway.
One thing I need you to do, if you do nothing else before now in November, for the love of God, just go see the show. I guarantee you it's playing somewhere. Just go see the goddamn show.
I'm so mad at myself because it was in Seattle when part one released. And I remember thinking I should go ahead and get tickets to that because I want to see that before the movie comes out. And they were actually reasonably priced. I could have gotten tickets for like $80 a ticket. It was very reasonably priced. But then I waited until like it was like a week or two before the movie when the show was running, and then the affordable tickets are gone now, that I was like, shoot, I guess I should have hopped on that. But then I started thinking like, well, I'm going to go see the movie, and I can see the movie instead of the play. And like a series of bad decisions were made. Okay.
Yeah. No, definitely.
But yes, I wish of
all the sound bites you want to grab that one of me demanding that you go see this show.
That may be a soundbite. You know, in fact, I think all of the internet's going to yell at me for trying to have a thought about Wicked without having seen the play. So
yeah. So look, there's a stark, not just in terms of story and context and just kind of narrative progression, but like there is a stark difference between the vibrant, lively, fun kind of creation of Oz in the first film and the much more somber, dour, low-key, not as high second act. I have some trepidation because the second act is significantly shorter in the show. We're talking 45 minutes tops. Like the show itself is incredibly front loaded. And that doesn't just go with story wise, that goes with music wise too. So I'm going to level set your expectations. For Good is an excellent song. I'm sure I know they're going to do some original pieces in here. But if you're looking for the next Defying Gravity in Act 2, it does not happen. Like
I already told you, they have a very high bar to clear with me, because look, if it was just if they were just like doing the first part, just revamping the original songs, then I would lower my expectations and be like, okay, this is what it is. They're working with the material that they have. But because they have original songs, I'm like, y'all better write something better than Defying Gravity. Come on, y'all.
It's not happening. I'm just
Defying Gravity.
This is the peak, man. Like Defying Gravity is the Everest of the show, and that's not even like forget the movie adaptation. It really is like everything about this show peaks with Defying Gravity. Now, that's not to say anything negative about the second act. It is definitely almost like an addendum to the height of this. So definitely want to level set there. I'm very concerned about how long the second act is going to be. One of the things I appreciated about Wicked is while it is longer, it doesn't feel its length because it just gives everything a little bit more room to breathe without overdoing it, without adding a bunch of fluff and things that we don't really care about. It just kind of expands certain things that are maybe brushed over quickly in the show, but that's more due to time constraints of what you can do on stage versus what you can do on film than it is by them just like adding new characters that don't exist. And you know what I mean? So like it moves along and it breezes by pretty closely with what you would expect the first act of the show to be. I don't believe that's going to happen here because there's just not enough bones in the second act to even support that. So there's going to be some stretching going on here. So just kind of like, I'm not saying the movie is not going to be good. And it from the trailer, it looks incredible. I'm very excited to go back to Oz. I'm very excited to go back with those two. But I am a little nervous because the groundwork you're building on is a little shaky and it's not as strong as the first act. So, but what I will say is, and I will put the pieces together without actually doing it for you, but I'm telling you, and I think I texted you this, but all the second act does is essentially recontextualize the Wizard of Oz. So the events do happen in the way that they occur in the Wizard of Oz, but you have to think about it in terms of like, what if a different person was telling this story? What if instead of watching everything that happens in the Wizard of Oz through Dorothy's eyes, you watch it from Glinda's eyes? What if you watch it from the Wicked Witch of the West eyes? Knowing what you know now about Elphaba, knowing what you know now about Glinda and Glinda, what if you watch that whole story unfold from how they are watching the events? Right? So knowing the relationships that you have now and knowing that all of those people are going to somehow transition and fit into the Wizard of Oz and the story that it is. Because that story, I will tell you this right now, the story of the Wizard of Oz remains unchanged. All the events happen pretty much exactly the way that they should.
I don't get it. I don't understand.
All that is happening is the way that's the perspective of the story and who is telling the story recontextualizes the things that you see in Wizard of Oz.
You know what? I'm a visual person.
I promise you it makes sense. I know it sounds like it doesn't, but it's actually not that far of a stretch. It actually does make sense.
Okay, I'm going to take your word for it for the next 7 months or whatever. I'm going to take your word for it and just try to exist, understanding that somehow this high school drama or college drama or whatever somehow fits into the Wizard of Oz. I don't know.
Listen, Thomas, you don't even need to wait for me to figure that out in 7 months. You get to go see the show between now and November, and that will reveal all. That will tell you everything you need to know.
I really do wish I had seen it. There you go, guys. Regrets.
There is no possible way between now and November that Wicked does not come to Seattle in some capacity. There is no possible way that does not happen. None whatsoever. So the minute it does that, just buy your $100 ticket and then call me and be like, okay, I get it now. And then we can go see For Good together or whatever. And then we'll be good. And then we'll be set.
I might actually call you in the middle of the play like, oh, that's what happens. Sir, get off your phone. No, I'm talking about this.
This is important.
This is important. Oh my goodness. Okay.
But no, the trailer looks amazing. I think Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, for however much of a parody they became from their own press tour, I'm down to hold space all over again. Like,
Yes.
just let those women cook and
Yes.
let them do what they got to do, because they are great together, and I'm really excited to see that relationship flourish and develop a little bit more, because it does. And when you talk about their friendships, like that song is really the most powerful one in the second act, and it really does make a lot, like, you genuinely believe their friendship more because of the things that they have to go through and because of the events that they do. And they really do that compliment of them talking, because that song is really just them talking about how different they are since they've met, and how much each other have changed them, essentially for the better. That's really the whole vibe of the second act. So yeah, you're in for a treat. It's really, really good. But again, Wicked is just better in general. The first act of Wicked is better overall. So yeah.
If you say so. We'll see. Cool. Let's talk about a couple movies that are currently in theaters. I know you're a lot more caught up than I am, so let's start with Phoenician Scheme. I have not seen this one. I've heard a few of your thoughts, and I'm interested in if that has developed any more since the last time we talked about it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of on an island with this one, because I actually really enjoy the Phoenician Scheme. I found it to be a lot more fun in that Wes Anderson kind of way. It's not quite as good as, I'd say, The Unassailable, Grand Budapest Hotel, Moonrise Kingdom, these movies that are just like peak Wes Anderson for me. But it definitely feels like he has different things on his mind than these big kind of philosophical inquiries about art and creativity and the writing process and the process of creation. And not to say that those aren't included in here, but you're not getting the French Dispatch, which is like, hey, I'm very interested in how written word forms a story, so I'm going to tell you an anthology of this one random newspaper that now influences everything that I do and how I write. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but I don't need a movie about that. Thank you. Or something even more complicated like Asteroid City, which is like a play being told by a movie being told by the people that created it to make a documentary on TV about the making of the documentary. Like, okay, bro. So this one...
That was really good.
Thank you. That is in fact in my review, so you don't get to use that soundbite. So, this one is a lot more streamlined. This one is very much just a businessman and his estranged daughter who wants to be a nun. He wants to make her his sole heir. He's got this big scheme that's like a big business scheme, and he needs to... he has a bunch of enemies, and they're all trying to sabotage him because he's a shrewd, ruthless businessman, and they're all trying to sabotage his plans. And so when they start to sabotage his plans, he has to go on a globe-trotting adventure to basically redo the agreements with all of his investors to keep this scheme going. And so it's really just him trying to reconnect with his daughter as he tries to get this business scheme off the ground. And then hijinks ensue. Like, that's about as brass tacks as you can get for Wes Anderson. So you can tell how far abandoned it is from the previous two, but how much more closely it's tied to kind of some of the other things that he does, where he really is interested in relationships and estranged relationships and the father-son dynamics, the father-daughter dynamics, fathers and his children's families, all those types of things are things that Wes has been interested in since the beginning of time. So these things are kind of a return to form in that way. I understand how difficult it can be to feel connected to those characters, especially in our current climate, because it's really hard to watch this and not think of people like Elon Musk and not think about people like Trump. Not that I necessarily want to bring them up all the time, but like it's almost impossible to watch somebody who acts like this and not think of those types of people. I doubt that is what Wes Anderson was trying to go for. But it's hard not to say that he wasn't. It's just really difficult to not feel that when you're watching it. So there's a little bit of inhumanity and a little bit of distance. There's always been distance in a Wes Anderson film, but it does feel like he's stretching out his arms a little bit longer to kind of put a big gap between us and the audience and what he's trying to interpret. All that aside, I really dug the Phoenician Scheme. It's not the best Wes Anderson, but it's not the worst Wes Anderson at all. It's a pretty solid middle ground. And for me, as a big stan of Wes Anderson, there really isn't a bad film. There's just ones I don't like as much. And that's kind of where the Phoenician Scheme falls. So I would say if you are a fan of Wes Anderson, and even more so if you're not a fan of the French Dispatch and Asteroid City, I actually think you'll probably like the Phoenician Scheme a lot more. If you are a weird person who actually loves the French Dispatch, and then you've got Asteroid City in your top 3, then you're probably going to hate the Phoenician Scheme, because this does not further any of that stuff. So, but you can read my whole review on nerdbot.com. Great website. Definitely check it out.
Nice. You have also seen Life of Chuck, which I also have regrets and made mistakes over. This was one, I mean, I was at TIFF, I was there the whole time, and it won the award, and I was there the Sunday when they had the extra screenings, and I just could not get into this movie, which just because of time constraints and schedule conflicts and things like that. In fact, I'm actually kind of annoyed with the movie I prioritized instead of watching this. Dang, there were mistakes made. Anyway.
Air it out. What did you see?
No. You want to hear that? Sign up for Real Plus. that is exclusive content. I will not be
exclusively on Patreon. You can hear why Thomas is not seeing Life of Chuck. That is amazing. I love that so much.
Anyway, but the team over in Toronto, they all got to see it. We have a number of reviews on the site about it. And now it's finally out. And Derrick, I know you have thoughts about this too, but I don't think we've talked a whole lot about it.
No, we haven't. I'll try to be quick because I know it's not our main topic, but I genuinely like Life of Chuck, and I the longer I was away from it, the more positive I got. But I am not over the moon blown away by it. I think it's a little too sentimental to the point of like manipulation. Mike Flanagan absolutely wears his heart on his sleeve here, and that's all well and fine, but it does kind of play like a really made for TV special that you would see on like Lifetime or Hallmark. And not that it's like that narratively devoid, right? Like it's not like that, but it does feel like it does. It feels like a movie that was made for television that somehow has all of this just astronomical talent attached to it. And it never quite escapes its novella framework, and it feels very much like a novella. And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but the adaptation just doesn't feel like it's fit for a feature-length film. That being said, there are some just undeniably charming and emotionally resonant scenes that happen in this movie, particularly surrounding dance, which warms my heart in particular, because I danced for like 20 years. So I have a very special place in my heart for that. And it is, bar none, one of the best scenes you will see all year. So regardless of how you feel about the movie, the scenes involving dancing are by far and away some of the best scenes of the year, like easily. They're just incredible. Here's what I will say though, in kind of defense of the Life of Chuck. However mid I might be on it, however much it didn't move me to tears, however much I want to critique its sentimentality to a fault, I think we are living in like a near apocalyptic time where it is, whether you want to or not, doom is all around you. This shot of just pure joy and hopefulness is kind of what we need right now. And it's hard for me to harp too much on something that is just so life affirming when life just kind of feels like we don't want to go through this again, right? Like life is just at this point now, and I'm speaking from America, guys, and it's however bad you think it is, it's worse. So when you kind of just look around you and you just see everything crumbling, this just bolt of light of just, now life is worth living. You just got to find the moments to make it that way. It's really beautiful, and it's really hard to kind of be like, yeah, I don't need that. Like, no, you do. You need it. You need just that little bit of hope. You need that spark to kind of move you forward and have you kind of realize that, like, yeah, we contain multitudes, and yeah, life is worth living. You just gotta find what's worth living for, and that can be difficult. But Life of Chuck really does that. So I appreciate it for that much. Again, it might be too sentimental, but that is a really beautiful thing, and I think we all kind of need that right now. So if you just want to feel good, in a time where everything just feels bad, this is a good movie to see. Like, it just is. So
interesting. You know what else makes people feel really good? A whole lot of action and violence.
Yeah,
and that's
baby,
what we're here to talk about.
Let's get to the real shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are entering our main topic right now, which is the long-awaited Ballerina movie, which is now in theaters. Derrick got to see it. I got to see it. We have thoughts. Let's jump into it. I think I want to start with this question. Is this a worthy companion piece to the John Wick franchise? What do you think?
Ooh, yeah, that's a really good question. I'm going to say yes. I'm gonna say yes because I don't think that it's better than the best of John Wick, but I do think that it keeps the things that you like the most about the Wick universe. I think it pushes innovation and creativity for stunt work and action set pieces, which after 4 of these, that should be really hard to do. I will be honest and tell you how much I love everything that happens in John Wick Chapter 4. That movie is just, it looks beautiful. It's one of the most beautifully cinematic action films of all time. But it does start to get a little repetitive. The gun fu, the movements, those types of things. So obviously, yeah, you gotta get the boy and his dog. You gotta get a blind ninja. Like, you gotta, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta get all of these different things to really kind of drive that stuff forward. Because it gets a little repetitive. You kind of just start to feel like all of this blends into one. I was talking about it with a friend, and he was trying to figure out which action sequence went to which movie because he hadn't rewatched them recently. And so he was like, okay, was 2 the one with the person and the thing and the stuff? And like, it's hard to, it all kind of blends into one. So I think that Ballerina does a really good job in feeling like a John Wick movie while also innovating some of those action set pieces that you come for. And it shows that, yeah, if they want to think about it hard enough, they're going to find new ways to kill people, and it's still going to be a lot of fun. So
I agree with so much what you're saying. And I think my answer to the question would also be yes. It certainly gives, I mean, besides the fact that John Wick is in the movie a little more than I care for, I think the movie gives John Wick vibes. It is very much in line with the aura or the essence of John Wick, which is great, and I hope that they keep that up. My biggest complaint about this compared to the John Wick franchise, or maybe just the start of John Wick, is there's too much story. you guys, you need to worry less about the narrative and just have like a very, like, John Wick just like nailed it. This dude, he has a dog, it died, he's out for vengeance, right? Like, that is the narrative, that is all you need to know. And I do think, like, I've always appreciated how the world of John Wick has really expanded the mythology and the rules. This whole like world that they play in is really, really cool. I never got into the Continental TV show, but like that concept of just like stories that all branch from this this hotel chain is super interesting, and I wish that they could do more with that. With less story. Because really these are assassins going out to assassinate people, and that's really all I need in a John Wick movie. And so as far as Ballerina goes, yeah, I think trying to like connect with her motives and like what's driving her and what's motivating her, I was like, nah, it's just word count at this point.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, big time. Big time. No,
So,
I feel that. Yeah. No. I agree. You can keep. I was going to look up I forgot the author's name, but it's Shay Hatton.
okay.
So the screenwriter, he did Chapter 3. He did John Wick Chapter 3 and John Wick Chapter 4. but then he also did Rebel Moon. So I don't know what to make of all of that, because not to kind of skip around too much, but I do feel like he has taken some of the best parts of 3 and 4, and I would actually argue that 3 is the worst out of all of the John Wick movies, including this one. But he's taken all of the best parts of John Wick Chapter 4 and Chapter 3 and has somehow combined them with 2 of the worst written films of the last 30 years. And I don't entirely know what to make of that, except for the fact that Ballerina feels like a story that is just bursting with ideas that Hatton is just not capable of fully fleshing out in ways that make more sense in the way that you're talking about, where John Wick works because less is more. The best of those films are just tight, and they give you just enough to be like, damn, that's really interesting. I'd like to learn more about that, without giving you too much to where you feel like, okay, well, no, I regret knowing about that. And that's honestly, that's the biggest fault of Parabellum. Like them. So the scene that always sticks out in my mind is, there has never been a part of me that has wondered how these coins are made and how how the currency is created. Like I'm very aware that they are cool ass assassins that have their own currency. That is literally all I need to know. I don't need a whole scene about where they get the gold and the guy that controls it, like that. Why is there's nothing interesting about that? And so it's things like that. And I think Ballerina has a little bit of that vibe going on.
Has more of that than I care about. And the thing that's popping into my mind when I think about disposable narrative beats is the sister. Like,
yes, big time.
What was that
big
about?
Time. Big time. Hold on. My camera just died.
Yeah, no.
So
do that.
Give me a second.
I'm going to go off about how unnecessary the sister was in this story. So like, okay, we're told in the beginning that she had a sister and she was an older sister, and they they never really had a relationship because they were just too young. But then we just kind of go throughout half the movie, and then we finally get to a point where it's revealed that one of the people living in this village is her sister. And I'm like, oh, okay, so what? They're going to reconnect, they're going to rekindle, they're going to repair their relationship, they're going to do what? Nothing. Spoilers, by the way.
I wanted to let you keep ranting while I was trying to figure out where my lighting was going to go, but yes,
sorry.
Spoilers.
Just be aware. We're talking about Ballerina, so spoilers. I don't think we spoiled anything just yet, but I'm about to. Okay, because we get to the scene where they finally like reconnect and are kind of reconciling the gap in their past or whatever, and then the sister dies, and I'm just like, why was that there? Like, that literally it just progressed nothing about the story, and was just, I don't know, like, are there deleted scenes or something? Like, why did you feel compelled to bring the sister back, to give this twist, and then have them talk for 30 seconds just to kill the sister?
And those are by far and away the most frustrating aspects of the film itself. And I think a lot of people that have pretty strong criticisms about it, and people that the action only matters if there's a reason to care about the action, right? And I hate to bring this up again, but Final Reckoning is a great example of that, where Final Reckoning are 2 big giant action set pieces that were already done in Fallout, and like they were already done in Rogue Nation and Fallout, but you made an entire film recapping everything that happened, and then just gave me 2 big action set pieces with 0 context. It's cool to watch Tom Cruise hang from a biplane. Like, it is one of the most thrilling things I've ever seen, because he's actually doing it. But I literally do not care about what is happening and why it is happening, because I sat there for 2 hours of you just not giving me a reason to care, right? And so Ballerina, luckily, every time you get a moment to breathe and start thinking about those things that you're talking about, she's already going fisticuffs with someone else. So
this is true. Like even with the sister scene, like I in the moments that I thought, what was the point of that? They were back into another action sequence, and I can move on.
Yeah. You can only feel those things when you reflectively look at them. When
Right.
you're in the moment, Ballerina smartly is like, no. Every minute there should be another action sequence. Like this film does not. This is by far and away one of the most relentless action movies I think I've ever seen. I think there is maybe out of the 2-hour runtime, there is maybe 20 minutes where action is not happening. Like that is how rapid fire it is. So it smartly does. That's when we talk about like the weaknesses and the strengths, right? Like it smartly just kind of tries to hide some of those narrative missteps by just being like, give Ana de Armas a gun, give her a grenade, give her a flamethrower, give her an ice skate, like put a knife on a gun, like just give her something to do so that people don't think about this shit too long. But the sister is a good example, right? Everything to do with the sister, the murder cult, the son, the tribes, like all of that stuff is just, that's great that you want to talk about that. You want to expand the world, but like, you have to give me something more than just saying that it exists. That's not enough. If you're going to predicate your whole story on it, well then, yeah, it's got to mean something. And it ultimately doesn't. Because I look at it and I think like, dude, a murder cult, that's dope. Like a murder cult in John Wick, tell me more, please. But then they don't. And then they're just they could be anybody at that point. Like, and that's, if you're going to introduce something like that, I don't need a 30-minute exposition on what they are, but I need a little bit more reason as to how they're separate from everybody else that we've seen. Because if they're not, then they're just okay. It's just another guy, another assassin with goons. Like that's it. That's all they are, and that's just not enough for me. So I understand what you're saying. Right? There's a lot of those ideas that just get wasted narratively. And it is frustrating. It can be a very frustrating experience. And look, John Wick has never been story driven, right? Like nobody goes to these things for the story.
That's why I said there's too much story. Like
there is. No, I agree. Yeah, I completely agree. So yeah.
Well, we've talked a little bit about the pacing of the movie, but the pacing is led by our good old Ana de Armas, and I want to know what you feel about how she fits into this world. What is your thoughts of Ana de Armas as a leading John Wick kind of character?
Yeah, I mean, as I might have issues with Ballerina, but I will watch Ballerina too. Electric Boogaloo, let's go. I will watch her kick ass all day long. I think she is excellent in this role. I think the sweat equity and that she puts in, and just the magnetism of her charm. Yes, I get it. She's one of the most beautiful women in the world. And I love her and everything about her, but she's also just insanely talented, and you can definitely tell that she has put in the work. And one thing I like about the aspect of Ballerina is that Ana de Armas is not trying to be the next John Wick.
Right. That's a really good point.
They kind of frame it that way in the trailer, but that's not really what's happening. Like, she's got her own vengeance, but she also has to be a lot more innovative. She has to be a lot more creative. She does get her ass kicked. She is not, she's not John Wick. Like, she's not the Baba Yaga. Nobody tells stories of Eve. That's, you know what I mean? Like, that's just not where she's at. And so I really like the kind of grounded, gritty, this is an assassin who just graduated, and not an assassin who has racked up 20 years of murders and is now revered across the globe as the greatest assassin ever. Like, she doesn't know what to do most of the time. And so that allows them to play with a lot more and to do that. Again, that's where you get ice skates, right? Like, not saying that John Wick wouldn't be able to do that, but like, John Wick is going to grab nunchucks because there's no weapon he doesn't know how to operate with. Right? Like, he's just that good with anything. So you give him a weapon, he knows how to do it. But Eve is not as skilled. Like, yes, she can operate most weapons, but she's not a master at any of them. She's not like the greatest knife thrower of all time. So like she's getting her ass kicked, and then she finds ice skates, and she's like, well, this might hurt someone. So like, and by God, does it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So those things I really like. So I am all down for her to carry herself into more depth into this world, and the way the film ends. Like it follows the revenge story of the original John Wick pretty closely, and then the ending of Ballerina is basically the ending of John Wick 2, where she goes through her whole vengeance, she gets what she wants, but she basically broke the rules, and now every assassin, which is basically everybody in the world. I didn't know this, Thomas, but you're actually an assassin too.
Who told you?
Apparently that's how this works in John Wick. Like there is
you just no, but literally she goes to the town and she walks into the cafe. Now she's already left places a mess from other fights that she did. And so she walks into this cafe and it seems pretty calm, right? And then fighting breaks out because who was the dude that walks in? I can't remember his name.
He was actually in the first one too.
Yeah, that's right. So he walks in, and then they start fighting, and this whole place gets decimated, right? And the person working the cafe is standing there, and you're just like, oh yeah, that sucks for this cafe owner. And then she starts fighting. I was like, let's go. Subverting expectations. I was not expecting Sister Girl to come out from behind the counter and start trying to kick ass.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's really good. But and again, that's that murder cult thing, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, this is like a cult. This is an assassin town, which is cool as hell. Like I love that idea where it's like,
give me a spinoff of a spinoff just on a day in the life of these people, right? Yeah, you wake up, you have your breakfast, you go to the cafe. At the end of a hard day, you close the cafe and then go train. Like I want that movie too. Right?
Yeah, no, I love it. I do find it, and this is just a Hatton thing because he doesn't understand logic. I do find it funny that, and this, I want to be clear, this by no way is an indictment of the movie because I had a blast and I will absolutely watch it again.
Right.
But the fact that there is an entire murder cult town that no one knows where it is until some random guy that was going to sell her weapons is like, oh yeah, we think it might be here.
Yeah, by the way.
by the way, it's this town that you can actually visit like a regular tourist. If you actually look
there's
at
a road.
Like,
just take this road.
Like, I know people that were posting pictures of their trip to that town before the movie ever came out. So they're not in Siberia where we're not exactly sure what goes on over there. Like anyways, that's just movie logic that just doesn't make sense at all.
There is certainly some contrivances in the story, which again gets me back around to less story.
Yeah,
but that was definitely
honestly an easy fix. Is hey, we know where they are, but we don't go there.
Right? Oh yeah, absolutely.
That is one simple line of dialogue. Like we know who they are, we know where they are. We don't go there, so we don't disrupt the peace of the world that we have. And then she's like,
and I mean that was already kind of and that was already kind of a part of the story where like don't pursue this clan. We don't mess with them. They don't mess with us. Like that was already a part of it. Why couldn't the location just be a part of that narrative? So yeah, it's a little contrived. But something that you had mentioned earlier was the theatrical experience and seeing this with an audience. I have to say, so the theater that I go to, it's rarely packed unless it's a Marvel movie or something. It's very like it's big enough and busy enough to obviously operate, but like I think there was maybe like like 30 people in this screening, I guess. And it's a couple hundred seats, so it wasn't the fullest audience, and I hope to God that they understood what they came to. And how excuse how I behaved in this theater, because I was absolutely cheering. I was absolutely hooping and hollering and like clapping. Yes, this is a movie to engage with. And I think there was a couple other people who kind of had some reactions, but like, look, I was ready to turn up. And that's the kind of audience I wanted to see it with.
Should have come to
I
my
think,
screening, bro. You'd have had a blast.
Yeah.
You'd have had a blast. My screening was ready.
See, that's what I want. I want those midnight madness crowds, who are ready, who know the assignment, who signed up for the right screening and know what to expect.
Yep. Yeah, 2:00 on a Thursday afternoon is not the way to see this movie, guys.
No, don't do that.
I talk about it in my reviews all the time, but where and when and how you see a movie absolutely determines the experience that you have of that movie. It really does make a difference, which is why I'm just such a huge proponent of going to the movie theaters and seeing movies on the biggest screens that you can, because most movies are better served by doing that. Not all, but most. And Ballerina is a movie that I guarantee you, if I did see this on a random Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m. by myself with one other loser, I would probably not have been as high on it. I would have had a good time, but all of those narrative missteps and pitfalls that this movie definitely falls into, they would have been way more glaring. I'm willing to admit that, right? And that's why I don't ever get on somebody who's like, yeah, I didn't care for this at all because of all of these things. All of those things are absolutely valid. They just didn't matter to me because every kill, my crowd was cheering and clapping and groaning and shouting out at the screen. And like, that's what this movie is for. Like, those are the ways that you need to watch this movie, because I walked away from it being like, I had a blast. And I know I had a blast because the rest of the crowd did too. You know what I mean? Like, Lance Reddick got a pop and like people applauded for him when he showed up. Like that's the kind of rowdy place that you want to be to really, really enjoy Ballerina.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I want to bring this topic to a close by asking the most important question of this whole movie, and I think I know your answer, but the most important question of this whole movie, which is, what was best used as a weapon?
Yeah, there are a lot of really, really good choices in this movie.
There are so many good choices.
There's so many good choices.
The innovation.
Yes. Which is honestly, I mean, I know that God, what's his name? Whoever the cinematographer was that had done the previous movies, he's not here for this one, and you can tell. Just things look a little flat and they're not as vibrant. I mean, when you think about John Wick 4 and just the color grading and just the immersive visual creations that cinematographer was able to bring to life in that movie. That's why I say, like, it is one of the most gorgeously filmed action films of all time. Like, it just looks incredible. Ballerina doesn't have that. It's got the vibes, right? Like you talked about, it's got the John Wick vibes. You can tell that this does exist in the same world, but there is a flatness to it in just the way that things look. That being said, though, the choreography and the stunt choreography and these action set pieces are just, there's so many that are so good. The fact that, like, she doesn't have a working gun, so she decides to use grenades. Like, she brought grenades to a gunfight, and it's just the creativity in the way in which she uses these things is just that whole sequence. I sat back and I was just like, who fucking thinks of this? Like,
who thinks of this?
Like,
there's so many times in that scene where I'm like, I don't know how she's gonna do this, and she's like, oh well, why don't I just do this? I'll just throw all these grenades at them. Why not? Right? And
it's not. And if you haven't seen it yet, I know we've kind of spoiled it, but it's not her just like lobbing grenades randomly into the room. Like, she is literally using them in like close up combat and like using her, like, she's using her John Wick Fu gun style of like close encounters fighting, but instead of shooting them in the head, she ends it with a grenade in some way, and it's fucking awesome. It's so good. It's so good. So there's a handful of sequences, so like grenades, ice skates, flamethrower, which she also, instead of just like lighting people up in one continuous stream, she uses it like it's an AK-47 and just like fires off bursts of fire. It's amazing. Like, it is such an amazing action sequence. It's so good.
Right.
So a flamethrower,
ice picks. Ice Picks was another one.
Ice Picks is so good. That one's really fun. The knife on the gun is just innovation galore. Like that stuff is just, I love it so much. For me, I'm actually, it's not a three-way tie because I think I have one that I think is probably better than all three, at least for me, just for innovation wise. My top three would definitely be grenade, ice skates, and knife with a gun. I just think that is just so clever. The flamethrower is awesome. Like it's absolutely beautiful. It's so incredible. But we did see Dragon's Breath, and it is filmed relatively in the same way, right? Because it's got that bird's eye view where it feels like that video game, and it's awesome. Like, please don't get me wrong. And I was like losing my mind watching this movie. It was so cool. But there's an innovation to those three scenes that I am just like, I have never seen this before, and I love it so much. So then we're going to get to our top two. So my top two, as much as I wax poetic about the grenades, I actually still think my top two are going to be ice skates and knife with a gun. The fact that she has a gun and she's like, this isn't going to be enough, and then basically duct tapes a knife to it to create like a handgun bayonet, and then it's one of the best kills in the movie where she stabs him, but the gun is facing upwards, and then she gets her head shot.
It's so great.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That shit is so cool. It's so cool. It's so cool. I love it so much. But again, that just pushes it. Again, I talk about innovation. I've said that word a lot, but it like that creativity of just, we've used guns, we've used knives, we've used them in all kinds of different ways. What if we just put them together? And you're like, yes, please do that. That is the best idea you can come up with. All that being said, I think I'm still going to go with ice skates.
Ice skates.
I think ice skates is just, and not only is it just the peak of like, what if we use this? But it's not even that long of a scene. It's actually pretty short. It's one of the shorter action sequences in the film, but it just contextually, it makes so much sense. It is so brutal. Like it is probably one of the most violent scenes I've ever seen. And it's so good. It's just so, from start to finish, it's just so good. The fact that she is sliding around on this patch of ice with ice skates in her hand and using them as like a nunchuck knife weapon. And then the best part of that whole sequence is after she kills one guy, another guy comes in and is about to shoot her. And instead of her doing anything else, she just lobs it and it's straight to the face. And it's, mwah, mwah.
This is cinema. Yes, you have outlined all of those scenarios perfectly. Ice skates is incredibly high. If you hadn't picked it as number one, I might have, but because you did already, I mean, that you make such a compelling argument for knife with gun. But man, that the grenade, I love the grenades.
It's a great pick.
It's so good.
Great pick.
When I replay that scene in my head, I have the Bruno Mars song playing. It just makes it that much better.
Yes, please. Keep that into my veins. Hell yeah.
Right.
I love it.
It's just such a great scene. So clever, so creative, and just like, yeah, I ate that up. So
the way it's blocked and the way it's choreographed is honestly just so good. Like we say grenades in the way that I was trying to describe it, but like it is so much more than just grenades. That's just not what's happening here. Like the scene where she goes fisticuffs, and then right as she's about to leave, she basically shoves it into the guy's chest and then flips backwards over the table, but then pulls the table to be a blockade for her. And then he explodes one way and the table, but it's so good. It's so good.
Just really pushing the bounds on what is like physically like reasonable. I'm sure physics looked at that and said, can we do that? Like, is that a part of the law of nature? Like, maybe that's possible. And I'm watching this like, that looks real.
It looks real. It looks so good. And I also do, and this is just something I always love in action films that do this. John Wick tries, but he's a superhero. Like, he's not real.
Right.
But I love that, like, they do pause to be like, no, her ears are ringing. Like, she's doing this, but like she's giving herself a concussion by lighting up these grenades. Like, she's not getting out of here completely unscathed. And you can see that, right? Like, it's every time she lights one off, like, she has to stop and pause and then kind of like reset herself and like stop the ringing. And then when she's got to find another way to get this grenade off. And it's just the way it's blocked, the way it's choreographed is just, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful carnage, and I love it.
You know, this is my last note that I have on the movie. Since we're talking about the action, one of the sequences that I found thoroughly amusing in the movie was when she's fighting John Wick.
Oh,
like, spoiler alert, Eve. You're not going to win this, okay?
Love your passion, babe. Love your passion, babe. Love it.
Like, go you. I'm here for it. But you are not going to win this fight. And I love that the scene is so obvious about that. Like, they're fighting and she's holding her own and she's trying really hard, but John Wick isn't. He's just doing his thing. And I think that adding that sequence again is really kind of it's kind of shoehorning John Wick into this movie a little more than I think is necessary. But if you're going to do it, I think that the dynamic was correct. You know, it's a reasonable fight. She's not like all out losing, but she's not going to win. And I think that you know, they used it to push the story forward a little bit. But I appreciated that fight for not being all one-sided or unrealistic in terms of their dynamics and who's going to win that fight, because we know
he really does kind of swat her off like a fly.
He does.
It's very funny. It's a very, very fun sequence, and I will genuinely watch those two go fisticuffs all day long.
You know,
it's really fun.
When Ballerina 4 comes out and Keanu Reeves is 80 years old, still kicking ass, let's redo this fight.
Let's go.
And she's still gonna lose.
She's still gonna lose. Yeah, for sure. I do think that sequence is probably the best use of John Wick in this movie, and if that was the only time that we saw him. So if they didn't try to cram him in before to like nod to us where it exists in the timeline, like, I just don't need that. I really just don't. So many things in this world can happen simultaneously that you don't need to define where Ballerina fits by including John Wick from a scene somewhere else to be like, oh yeah, this is exactly the point of where it happens. It's like, even then it doesn't really make sense, but that's beside the point. So if the fisticuffs was all that happens, right? Yeah. They go toe to toe, and then he's like, listen, you've got 25 minutes to sort this shit out, and then I'm coming back for you. And then we don't see him again. Yep. And that's fine. Right? Yep. She achieves what she needs to do. She does it without his help. And then you can get then if you just have that, and then the call with the director where he just calls her and he's like, it's done. And she's like, oh, okay, so she's dead. Nope, he is. Yep. End of story. That's it. Give me 3 minutes of John Wick in this movie tops. And then that's it. We know he's the Baba Yaga. We don't need an additional action scene with Keanu Reeves. I love it, and it's fun, and it's very funny, but it doesn't need to be here in this movie. Right. So yeah, I think that scene and the call is really all you need for John Wick, and I think this movie is infinitely better by that, which is an insane thing to say, that like a movie is better without Keanu Reeves.
Right. What?
That is not a soundbite that you can clip, by the way.
I won't. I think that's going to get us canceled. That's going to get us canceled.
I will never podcast again if that's all you say and there's no context.
Hear what Derrick said on For Real.
No. I will gladly upset J-Lo fans. I will not take slander from Keanu Reeves fans. It will not happen. I can't live in this world if that's what happens.
Oh, that's hilarious. All right, let's close out with final ratings. Now that you've seen it, it's been a little bit of time. Where are you landing on Ballerina as far as a rating?
Yeah, depending on the day and depending on what view I'm watching it from, this is a solid 3.5 to 4. I think in my initial review I gave it a 4-star. I can be convinced either way. You can hammer the narrative misgivings, and I can drop it down to 3.5. Or you can just forgo all those, and we can just talk about grenades for an hour. And suddenly it's a 4. I would firmly place this. For me, my John Wick rankings would go 1, 2, 4, Ballerina, 3. I think 3 is actually the worst. I think when you talk about like what you had talked about with just too much story, and that's not why we come here, and less is more. 3 commits all of those mistakes by like almost more than Ballerina does. So it is towards even with high praise, it is towards the back end of the John Wick series. But that's actually more of a compliment to how just unassailable the best of John Wick is, more than like an indictment on how much I disliked Ballerina, which I didn't. So it's kind of the Wick's world's fault for just setting the bar way too high. And I mean, look, not to go on too long, but like Wick has literally invented a new genre of action. Ever since John Wick came out, the rest of action films have been trying to recreate John Wick and the fighting style and the stunt work, and kind of trying to remake the revenge story with John Wick-esque choreography. So like action has changed forever because of John Wick. So, you know, when you've got that going and you've got that in your corner, that's really hard to make a movie, even one that exists in this world. It's really hard to make something better than that. Right? Ballerina is not going to set off a new chain of John Wick fighting, but it does handle and it does keep the integrity of what John Wick does best. And for that, I really appreciate it and I really dig it. So
yeah, I think I land somewhere between 3.5 and 4 as well. I think I'm probably more on 3.5 just because I would have loved to have seen it with an audience. Like if this was a movie,
that's where my 0.5 comes in. If I'm being honest,
no, seriously. If this was like a premiere at South by and I had seen it there, 4-star easily.
Imagine, dude. Jesus Christ. Like, I know they don't go there, but dude, Southwest, like. Every single person walking out of the movie would be like, 5-star banger, best action movie ever. No, Letterboxd would be insane if this debuted outside.
That's so true, right? Like, so yeah, I think my audience just wasn't up for the task, unfortunately. But yeah, Ballerina, I had a really good time with it. Me and the buddy that I went with, we just had a blast with this. And you know, the theater wasn't quite on our page, but you know, they're going to have to make better decisions for their life. So, 3.5, I think I can say pretty confidently, but like you said, we could talk for an hour about grenades, you know, and so that's just the kind of movie this
is. Grenades and ice skates, baby, let's go.
Yes, exactly. It's funny because I feel like this movie does to grenades and ice skates what Final Destination did to a penny.
It's a really good comparison. You're absolutely right.
So absolutely I have to appreciate it for that. You know, I'll never look at ice skates and grenades the same.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and watching this. We'll be doing these more often, and I hope you tune in for those. Until then, Derrick, do you want to plug anything really quick before I sign off?
Just check out all my reviews at nerdbot.com. I've got almost the entire summer movie lineup slated and ready to review. I'll have How to Train Your Dragon out probably at the top of this week. But yeah, just keep checking for those. Reviews of new movies come out all the time. I try to work really, really hard. So yeah, check it out.
Yep. And you can find all of For Real's content at thisisforreal.net. Sorry, thisisforreal.com. For Real, of course, spelled FORREEL. And we'll be seeing you on things like these podcasts a lot more often. So subscribe, like, favorite, share, whatever the preferred method is, and we'll see you then, okay?